What's up, guys? My name is Trevor Jameson from Motion Auto TV, and you guys are listening to the Builder Sessions.
Welcome to the Builder Sessions with Hoff and Rosie, a podcast where we chat with your favorite builders. We get to know them, their stories, and hopefully inspire you to get off the couch and build something cool. On this episode, we talk with Trevor Jameson from Motion Auto TV. We talk about how he got into automotives, his YouTube journey. We discuss social media versus reality. We talk about his dream builds, and we even get some social media strategy in there. All this and more on this episode of the Builder Sessions. We hope you enjoy. Trevor, welcome to the Builder Sessions. It's awesome to have you here.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Doing good. We are under a snow watch, surprise, surprise, up in Canada, where we have a snowfall warning, a snowstorm warning or whatever, or watch, whichever one's the worst.
Yeah.
Is it watch or warning?
And it's cold.
Yeah, and it's damn cold. So that's how we're doing. How are you doing?
Oh, good. So I'm here in Colorado, and it's almost 60 degrees today. It's a little windy, but I was just playing musical cars outside, shuffling everything around, trying to organize and get cars into the shop. I couldn't even move. I couldn't even get cars out because they were blocked in by other cars. So was messing with that. So now the shop is all cleaned up. It's ready for some work. So I'm excited for tomorrow. I think we're supposed to actually get some snow tonight too, like 6 to 8 inches or something. So
Wow.
we'll see how that goes.
So we're living in similar climates. You're
I think you
yours
guys
is
are just
nicer.
getting it first.
Yeah, but your scenery is a lot nicer.
Yeah.
I
We're
maybe, I
flatland
hope
here.
so.
Yeah, we're flat.
Really?
We can see the mountains in the distance, but we're not like in the red rock awesome that you are.
Yeah, so that's literally exactly how it is. Here, I'm on the plains, and you pretty much look out, and like the mountains are 25, 30 minutes away.
Well, that's not bad. That's about the
Yeah.
same. Well, we're about maybe an hour. Anyways, Trevor, for our listeners who don't know who you are, I'm familiar with yourself and your YouTube channel and all the amazing projects you've done over the years. Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Trevor Jameson. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Southern Colorado. I have two kids, two daughters. I got a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. Both girls, and they're crazy. Keep my toes. I have the Motion Auto TV YouTube channel. Right now we're close to 615,000 subscribers. I've been making videos on YouTube for about 12 years. Many different variations of videos. Just some started off with me working in the garage, and then eventually working with some employees and some friends, and then it turned into kind of apparel and car giveaways. And now we do, I feel like everything, e-com, we do. I mean, it's just wild. So a lot of subjects, but everything pretty much revolves around cars and working on them. So
Trevor, can you kind of provide, if we rewind a little bit, how did you get into wrenching, car building? Did you do it at a younger age? Can you kind of explain on how you kind of got into this passion, I guess?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of, boys, when you're growing up, it's just RC cars, it's Hot Wheels, it's bicycles, it's pretty much, and that's how I was. Literally, like, I was addicted to cars. Like, it didn't matter if it wasn't even cars, it was anything with wheels, is pretty much what it was. Like, me and my brother used to argue over who got to mow the lawn because it had wheels and an engine on it.
That's awesome.
And like, I remember walking into the stores, like when it was snowing, and looking at the tire tread on the ground, and I'm like, oh, that's like a monster truck, because it had like some F-250 had mud trains or something on it.
Yeah,
And I was just so stoked on anything with wheels. I mean, it didn't matter what it was. And so my dad was actually a mechanic at the time. He worked, I guess as far back as I can remember, he worked at Sears in their automotive department. And so he was doing, like the oil changes and the maintenance and all that, or that's at least what I think he was doing back then. I honestly haven't asked him what he did there. I just knew that he worked there. And we always had, like a single car garage at our house. There was always a truck in there torn apart. And then he was always changing oil, like out in the street, like we didn't have a driveway. We had like the street. So like cars were driving by and he's laying underneath the truck, changing his own oil and, working on our grandma's cars.
He's got two
And
wheels up on the
as he was
curb instead of jack stands.
yeah, just stuff like just sketchy, like cars were driving by almost running over his legs. And like I was riding my bicycle down the street and it was like, you know, I had one of those wagons, just like with the bigger like pneumatic tires.
Oh yeah.
And me and my brother built these little ramps, and it was like we thought we were evil Knievel riding down the street on our bikes, hitting this ramp, jumping over the wagon, and so yeah, I mean that's it's always been there. It's just weird. And he'd be working in the garage on that truck that was always apart, and I would be like right next to him with my bike like upside down, taking off the wheel and just trying to do something, mechanically. And so it's pretty much always been there ever since I could remember. And then as I got closer to middle school, RCs was kind of the big thing that kind of threw me into actually working and kind of understanding how everything worked together. We had the Nitro. It was a Traxxas. It was a T-Max.
Nice.
And I bought one, and I bought it used, and it was a project. I bought it off eBay. I was buying and selling random things on eBay at the time. And this was back in like 2007, like way back in the day. I think I was maybe a freshman in high school or something. And so just like buy and sell stuff on eBay, would, basically anything I could to do to make money to buy dirt bikes and parts and stuff like that. So ended up buying that RC car. It worked great for like the first hour, and then after that, like bunch of issues. I just started breaking stuff. And then that's really when I started learning about tuning. But we ended up blowing up the engine. My dog grabbed it and, kind of shook the tire. We had a Rottweiler at the time. And the air filter came off of it and it sucked in, some dirt, and it seized the engine, and then it was like a couple weeks or whatever until I saved enough money and I ended up buying another engine for it. So that was my first engine swap, was my little Traxxas T-Max.
Overnight parts from Traxxas.
The cool thing was we actually had a local little RC shop.
Oh, nice.
And that was like my favorite place, because this was 2007. I mean, the internet was there, but it wasn't like you clicked buy now and everything. There were still them little hobby shops and stuff. So it was cool to go in there and look at all the parts and the tools, and you'd see the new, the Revo, like all the new cars and stuff there. And you're like, oh, I want that one.
The new HPI trucks and the new, I was into that too a little bit.
Yeah. And I had the Traxxas, my brother had the HPI, and we would race them down the street. And that's when everything just started to click.
Okay.
Right after that, it was also the same thing. Like when, like I said, addicted, like literally like addicted to anything with wheels. We would go to friends and family or whoever, my uncles, they were really cool. And my uncle always had hot rods and, was building, he has like a 37 Ford Coupe that he has like a small block 400 and a blower, and he custom painted it, did all that stuff with it. And so he was always into hot rods. My dad was always into like more mechanical stuff, not really like performance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, me, I just wanted to go fast. I wanted something cool. And I wanted to drive anything and everything. Like I would have teachers, like one of my teachers had like an Audi A8 or something, which was like this really weird long boat, European looking thing. And it was actually a substitute. And I was just like, can I drive your car? And I was like in middle school. I was like, I want to drive your car because I just thought it was a super car. And that was like, I was that like annoying kid. I'd go to my uncle's house and I'd be like, hey, can I drive your truck? Because he'd like let me steer it and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of it. I know the thing that really got me into actually working on them was my great grandma's car. I actually had an uncle that built all the hot rods. He in obviously when she died, great grandma, she was, got old. I never actually really met her. But she bought a 72 Datsun 510 from the local Nissan dealership, basically brand new.
Nice.
Which is crazy because it's from the town, that I currently live in. I was born and raised here. And the dealership that's still alive is where she bought that Datsun. And so when I was 14 years old, he had that. He had just inherited it. It got out of, whatever sort of place it was stored or whatever. And so he just got like 4 or 5 cars that were kind of like stuck. I don't know if they were in a warehouse or in somebody's yard in another state. But anyhow, like he gave me that 72 Datsun 510.
No way.
And that was like, and it's a 2-door, it's a 4, it was the 4-speed. And I didn't know what I got. Like, I just thought, I was like, okay, cool. I have this rear wheel drive manual car. I don't know anything about it. And at the time I thought it was the lamest thing in the world, but like it had so much potential. And so I started looking around, I had a laptop at the time, and, I'm like 14 years old. So get on the internet, you get on the 240SX forums or the Datsun forums, and I start seeing engine swaps. People are putting SR20s and this KA engine in them, and these VGs, and people are doing these side draft Weber carburetors and this electronic ignition and all these things. And I spent hours just going through build threads, and I'm just like, how am I going to build this car? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. My uncle did. He knew how to do like paint and body work and engine swaps and all that stuff. And he was the one who gave me the car. So it sat around for a couple months, and basically one day we pulled it in the garage. I called my uncle over. It's crazy because he literally only came and helped me for 2 afternoons. He came over one day. It had like some rust on the bottom, and we started cutting out the rust and making these patch panels. And he never even showed me how to spread body filler, but I like got on these forums and was just like searching anything I could, because back in the day, it wasn't like YouTube now where you could just get on and type in how to do body work and there's 10 people, or 100 people making videos, like kind of like I am now. I kind of try to show people. But there wasn't that back then. It was like, you had to buy this guy's course, or you had to buy this book, or it was like this big secret, of how to paint cars. And all I wanted to do was paint that thing like lime green or orange or whatever it was, because I had a Kawasaki dirt bike at the time. And so, that was kind of what started it. He helped me cut them patch panels. And then I didn't even show me how to spread body fill or anything. I literally went to Walmart, got a can of Bondo, and like went home and mixed it and like waited for it to get hard. And I was like, okay, crap, I guess I have to sand this now. And then started looking into, engine swaps and the KA swaps. So I think I technically had that thing running and driving and painted lime green when I was like 16 or 17 years old. And so it had a K24DE fuel injection and lime green. It had wheels and, suspension and all kinds of stuff on it. And that was really like, that was it. And I feel like I'm kind of going a little bit off topic, but
this is perfect.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, but it just I mean, if you want me to keep going, I'll explain it, because it's
go for it, man. Those are the best. Please tell me you have it still.
Oh yeah, no, it's
okay,
sitting in my garage. If you guys get on my Instagram right now, there's actually, it's funny, we just posted a reel. I don't know if you guys post many reels on Instagram or Facebook. We just posted a reel. Obviously that body filler that I put on there, was it almost 16 years ago? There's a big chunk of it that I just pried off of it. I'm going to make it one of these days. I'm going to go back and fully restore it again, because I didn't do a great job. But that's where I learned. I mean, literally everything that I know was because I was trying it out on that car, just because I was just like, I have this lame, car that has all of this potential, so I need to do this stuff to it. And so yeah, like I made a reel on Facebook of me like using my pocket knife to pop off this big old chunk of Bondo, like the size of a plate, and it had like 1 million views. So it's just funny how, the internet works.
Yeah, but the stuff that you don't think is even going to do anything, it blows up, and then the stuff you're proud of just gets like 10 views.
It's silly, it's like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I've really been trying to hit the Instagram reels and the Facebook reels and some of that stuff, just the short form content. is in it. But I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later, I guess. But yeah, so it was running and driving, KA swap. Then I started looking into like drifting.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was on all the 240SX forums looking at, SR20s and KA swaps and like how to wire a KA and, how to turbo a KA and what ECU you got to use and use these SR20 injectors. I'm like, well, what's an SR20? So you start looking all that stuff up. You search SR20, you look in, then all of a sudden drifting pops up. And I'm just like, oh man, like we have a local drag strip that I actually did some high school drag racing stuff with. As I was like working on the Datsun, I didn't want it to be my first paint job. I bought this, it was an 89 5.0 like Fox body hatchback, like the LX with an auto, and it ran a 17-second pass, but bought a big Craigslist guy. Like that was me. I was buying and selling anything that I could, and Honda Civics and all that stuff. And so I bought this Mustang. I painted it within a week because I wanted a practice paint job before I painted my Datsun. So technically the Mustang was like my first paint job, but it was like single stage and I painted it yellow. But bought it on Sunday and we worked on it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday during the day. And we went to the Friday night drags that night with it painted yellow. So less than a week from when I bought it, I painted it, but that was like my first practice paint job.
That's
and it
awesome.
Needed some decent body work, but I was like, before I paint the Datsun, I want to at least get one under my belt.
Yeah.
And so, my uncles and stuff, they knew about drag racing, and the drag racing was really the only thing that I knew of, as far as like car racing. But so I was familiar with the drag racing. I did the high school drags, and the Mustang ran a 17-second pass. It was automatic. I was just bored, I was just like, I'm literally in the car for 17 seconds. It's not even a cool 17 seconds. Like I want to do something else. I was into dirt bikes and BMX and, kind of that style. So you kind of have that like snowboarding, and I like sliding, like we had 4-wheelers at the time, and I loved going out on the roads. We had some dirt roads behind our house, and I'd literally just like power slide them. I couldn't wait for it to snow because you'd go out there and do donuts and just slide the 4-wheeler around. And I was like, this is literally the exact same thing in a car.
Mm-hmm.
And so then my search, on Craigslist turned into like 240SXs, and all that stuff. So ended up finding a 240 and started basically that was my first drift car build. It was a S13 hatch, had like these Integra taillights, had this knocking KA in it that I like ended up rebuilding and turboing and doing a bunch of stuff. But kind of, I guess where I'm going with that was I was on the progression from that into kind of where I'm at now is I was on the Facebook, or not the Facebook groups, the forums. It's Facebook groups now, which aren't very much, they're not anything compared to the forums back in the day. The forums were freaking awesome.
Unless you ask the same question like that 8 million people did, and they just roast you and say, "Have you searched yet?"
But the nice thing about it is that if you actually searched, the information was there.
Exactly.
And it was awesome. And I feel like, man, on Facebook groups now, there's so much lost information because the questions get asked so many times. And it's like the search feature on a Facebook group is a lot different than it was in a forum, where you would have like a thread and people would constantly update that thread, and people would have a build thread so you could keep up with their builds. And there would be, I can't tell you how many nights I spent scrolling through, 40, 50 page build threads of Datsuns or Nissan 240s or trucks or whatever, just looking at what parts they're buying, where they're buying these parts. And so that's where I turned to YouTube, because I wrote a couple articles, I guess, on the internet, or a couple build thread things.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out how to make money on the internet. There was this website called eHow where you used to write articles and they would pay you based upon like the ad rates that was on there.
Oh, cool.
And I was just like, well, if people are making money, like I was making like $100 a month from eHow. And my first article on there was the best one. It was how to buy cheap cars on Craigslist. But I made $100 a month on this for this article that I wrote this one time. I
Holy
was like, okay,
smokes.
but I wasn't really into like writing. Like I didn't like typing. Like I wanted to do video stuff. Like that's where I wanted like my own automotive TV show, because everything that you've seen, the only automotive content you really got was on like Motor Trend, or like some automotive TV show, and it was always they were rebuilding a C10 or a 69 Camaro or a 65 Mustang. It was always the same stuff,
Yep. The
and
classic
nobody
cliche
was really
cars.
doing exactly. Or they were lifting my Ford Bronco, or just the stereo. And then when the car would accelerate away from you, it wasn't even the right sound. That's the thing that, like, because again, I was addicted. I knew exactly what a 69 Camaro was supposed to sound like with a big block, and it didn't sound like that, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I was just like, man, I could, like, I could do that. Like I have YouTube. Like I have YouTube now. I could upload videos, and instead of a build thread on a forum, I'll just make a video build thread. And so yeah, the Motion Auto TV YouTube channel is that I actually started it in 2010, but my previous YouTube channel I started in 2007. And it was just that started off because I was selling a dirt bike on Craigslist. I uploaded a video to Craigslist with a link to the video of the dirt bike running. I was just like, okay, check out like actually at the time it was when Craigslist you could do your own HTML theme. And
Okay.
so I embedded the YouTube link, like the video, on the Craigslist page. So I'm like, oh, I'm selling my, Kawasaki KX100, the lime green one that inspired the Datsun. I'm selling this thing. So I literally uploaded a video of it idling 144p. You play it on your computer now, like there's square blocks of color, like you can barely tell it's a dirt bike. But it's crazy. That video got 300,000 views. Like, and it's wild. But that was my very first YouTube video, was that. And then as I was working on my Datsun and kind of updating a build thread, then I kind of, mostly when the Datsun was kind of more so getting finished or done before I painted it, which I kind of did a bad job at documenting it as far as video wise, because I was trying to do a build thread. That's when I said, okay, let's actually start an automotive YouTube channel, an automotive, build thread YouTube channel. And that's kind of, where I guess it all transitioned into, now also, I guess there's another thing, like I said, trying to make money on the internet.
Yeah.
Was the YouTube. At the time, there was, I'm sure, I don't know how long you guys have been around on the whole YouTube thing, but up actually in Canada, there was this channel, it's called David's Farm. And we would sit down and watch his videos, and he would build this like redneck roller coaster, and he just like would get
Oh, I've
this,
heard of this guy. Yeah, I've never seen it. I've heard of him for sure.
And so that was like OG YouTube. And he was literally just making videos of him and like his friends and these like people on his like 40-acre farm, like building cars and just messing around. And then he made a video of like how much money I make on YouTube, and he just like broke down the whole like YouTube partner program. And I was like, you can make money on YouTube? And because that was kind of at the same time that I was doing those eHow articles. So this was actually before I started Motion Auto. And so I was watching him. He said he could make money on YouTube. He kind of broke it down. And that at that time, it wasn't like automatic. Like it wasn't like you could just start uploading videos. You had to like apply to YouTube. Like you had to be, I forget all of the requirements, but it was a job. Like it was almost, I think, a year before I got monetized
Really?
on the Motion Auto channel. Yeah, because you had to have a certain amount of uploads, a certain amount of subscribers, and like they had to actually go manually review your channel. And it was like a big deal to be like on this partner program.
Yeah, no
And it was,
kidding.
so yeah, it was pretty cool. And then yeah, ever since then, it's just been, a progression of, I was, at the time when I started the channel, I was working out of my dad's garage. We had a 3-car garage at the house. It was a different house than what we grew up in. From third grade, when I was basically 10 years old, we moved to a different house. Then we had like 2 acres of land, and we had dirt roads behind our house, and we had a 3-car garage, and it looked like a used car lot outside of it because all the all the stuff we had, because my dad was buying and selling things, my brother was buying and selling stuff, I was buying and selling stuff, and it was just wild. We all had a bay in the garage,
That's
but
awesome
I
though
was
that
the
you
one
could
who
do
was
that
out
with your
there the most.
family.
Like I just, yeah, it was cool, and it was like a little competition because my brother was making YouTube videos too at the time. He actually got on the partner program before me, and so it was just like a challenge. I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna, like, because I was making the eHow articles, and then he was working towards this like YouTube partner program, and I was just like, no, like my articles are doing good, and he's like, no, YouTube videos, and then I transitioned to YouTube, and then now he still has a channel, but he doesn't really do anything. He got a job, but now YouTube is my life.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's cool that you can make a living at it now.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I don't know what people you guys watch on YouTube, or anybody who your audience is with, but yeah, it's a whole it's a business, like, and it's a job too. It's way different than I would have. I don't know. It was like I never really thought of it. Like it just turned into it, because I was doing what I had to do. So it was like, because we're now making money on the videos, or like, how do we build something cooler, or how do I get to build this car and not have a whole bunch of money in it? So then it turns into like sponsor things, but then you're like, well, why is a sponsor going to want to work with me? Well,
Hmm.
hopefully I have a good audience, and I have a good reach, and I have good views on the videos, and so it just turns into this just ecosystem of just, it just turns into a business, is what it does. um there's a lot of people who have channels, that like do them in their garage, and they do them small as kind of a part-time thing, but to run a successful YouTube channel full time, like with employees, it's tough. And that's especially, I think, a little bit tougher now, because when I first started, I was the only, like, not the only one, but like I was early. I was really early in the like automotive YouTube pool. And then now you have a lot of big companies with big money. You have like Hoonigan or Donut Media, or even just other creators that have hit success sooner. So like their content is just exponential. Um, and it's so, like, that was kind of, I guess the reason I kind of refer to that is I was just like, on a TV show back in the day, you would see a whole entire build of a car in, let's say, like, I don't know how long it would actually take one of those shops to
Oh
to
yeah.
build it,
Like overhauling
but
like 7 days.
yeah, like, but I don't know if it actually took them 7 days or if it was 6 months, but it was like a half of the episode.
Yeah.
It was like they would roll in the car, they would tear it all apart, and then all of a sudden, like, they would roll it out of the paint booth, and it was painted, and then it was running and driving, and they were getting the reaction of the owner. There was never the process. Like,
Mhm.
that was the thing that I always got hung up on, is there was no process of it. Like, I wanted to see how much body filler they were putting on it. I wanted to see how they wired in that fuel injection to that old car and ran the fuel lines and stuff like that. And literally there was none of that. Like, all of the details were gone. It was just like, okay, we have a terrible car, we have a big problem, here's a little bit of the progress, and now here it is, the customer, it's running and driving, and you guys didn't see the last 6 months of work, like, is how I felt. And I almost feel like that's kind of like, that's what I didn't want YouTube to be, and that's what I was like most proud of. I was like, cool, like, I could build a car in 6 months. I could take my time, I could show people the process, I could take my time on it. Whereas I feel like now it's like almost people are building cars fast
Yeah.
on YouTube,
Hmm.
and it's I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing. It's like, I don't know if that inspires people, or if it like discourages people, you know like, how like people look at like people on Instagram, and they're like, they see how skinny and fit they are, so then they have like an eating disorder, then, because they're like, I want to be just like them. Like, do you guys think that happens in like the automotive world, as far as they're like, oh, that guy built the car in a month, but it's taken me a year? And I
Oh
know
yeah.
like what you guys said is like you get that car off of the jack stands. Like what is your guys' take on that?
I think it's the same. It's just we live in a culture of instant gratification, and I think that
Hmm.
we have like well, since we're both high school teachers, I'm again, I'm going to speak for Hoff here, but I think it's, we come up against that in our shop classes where kids don't understand how the reality of how long something takes to do or build, because they've seen it on Instagram a lot or whatever, right? And then I don't know if like shows like Overhauling started that, but I remember working in a shop before I became a teacher, and people would be pissed off because what do you mean it's going to take 6 months to do this car? Like like Overhauling does it in like 7 days. Well, what you don't see, darling, is that Overhauling, like there's a ton of behind the scenes work. They get it just slapped together for the camera, and then they go through it afterwards, right after the reaction of the customer or whatever. So I think that happens a lot. You could see, but I do appreciate there's a change. I think, especially in the stuff that you do, especially in a lot of the reels that are happening now, where you can see the processes because people are starting to understand. It's all about like everything is content, right? So
Hmm.
if this part of this build, okay, I need to research or refinish these bolts or whatever. I take these bolts out of my motor, and I'm not replacing some of these because they're not available. So I'm going to clean them up, get the grease off them, brush them off, paint, whatever. That is a it's like like a small percentage of the overall build, but that can give you a 60-second reel, and that's more
Hmm.
content going out there. So I think we definitely see that, but I think there's a change coming. I don't know about you, Hoff.
I appreciate the process. I'm kind of a process guy myself, so I like to. I mean, some of those videos on YouTube and the pictures and short clips on Instagram with the finished product and stuff is wicked because it kind of gives you a sense of that the final build. But I like to break it down, and I mean, I guess this gets to be a bit hard on YouTube if you've got a 4 hour video. I'm probably not going to be watching the whole thing, but if you can split it up into smaller chunks, I want to see. And again, the automotive is not really my forte. I'm not really, competent in it, but I like to see the process of, this is how we redid the dash in the C10 or whatnot. So I appreciate the process videos a bit more, and I'm kind of happy that they're coming out a bit more now instead of just here's our finished product, and this only took, however long, and all the blood, sweat, and tears, and the important part is almost missing. So yeah.
I think the process too is more relatable, right? It helps you build that relationship with your audience that way, and they can go on that journey with you, and then you've been through something together at the end of it, and hopefully that communicates to like long-term viewership too. I don't know. What do you think?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I guess where I was going with that initially was that I feel like some of the process just really sped up on the internet.
Yeah.
Like obviously like me, like I have a few guys that work with me. So like when we build a car, the process is really fast compared to like if I was just building it by myself. And I feel like I kind of miss out on a lot of that content now just because there is a team of guys. And for example, like I'm good friends with like Adam LZ. I don't know if you guys have seen any of his stuff, but
Yep.
like, initially, like he kind of started off, working on his car in his garage, and you've seen almost every nut and bolt that he touched on it. He's swapping this turbo, and this is the reason he's switching over to this turbo, and here's the response, and now we're going over to the dyno, and um, he had a lot of that process, but then as his business escalated, and as his, I guess time was needed in other places, and he hired people. Now, like he has like a four rotor A90 Supra, you
Yeah.
know, that you don't like that almost you haven't seen enough of. Like that's an insanely technical car all the way around. But because he has a guy, a team of people, going through that, I feel like the audience they miss out on how big of a task that is, and they kind of miss that process as well. I do think that with the reels and the short form content, it's it's harder to in some aspects, I guess. It's easy to show them minor details in like one reel, but it's
Mhm.
hard to get somebody to watch like a 30-minute YouTube video anymore. Like I've
Yeah.
noticed that in like my analytics is just the watch time is just so much lower. I feel like people just have less time to sit there, and it's less satisfying to watch me work on a car for 30 minutes where, maybe we're swapping an engine and, we go through the process. Okay, this one's knocking, and we go to the junkyard and we pull one, and then we put this one in, or we're going to turbo this car or whatever. Whereas you could just kind of, I feel like as a consumer of content, like you could just sit there and endlessly scroll and just be rewarded in 15 seconds over and over and over and over again. And so that's why I mentioned previously is that I've kind of shifted a lot of my attention to short form content. And that's kind of my plan moving forward is still do a lot of the longer form videos, but how much content can we pull out of that and put on reels? How can we
Yeah.
send somebody on a reels, like, or a shorts, or TikTok style journey with my content now?
Yeah. I
Almost make somebody want to go binge watch your 15-second clips instead of watching your 30-minute video.
That's tough too. As long as you, I think it's that's a tough trade off, hey, because I think the people who are watching I mean, it's bad that we're calling half-hour video long form now, but I think if the people who are gonna watch the long form stuff are gonna be loyal consumers, right? And I think the people who are, if you're just going for views, that's fine. But if you're looking to like build a community around what you're doing, I don't know if I'm not. I'd like to see how other channels or like groups are doing it, and how like the data on that. Does the short form reels, do they translate to like subscribers, or do they translate to more like a loyal customer, to sound old fashioned? But do you know what I'm saying? Like, because if your stuff's just in their feed and they watch it scroll past, like how often do you hit follow or whatever on someone's stuff, just flipping through the feed? I don't know. That's a tough trade off.
Yeah, I mean, in and I feel like you're almost chasing that high view number versus like the long term like relationship with the viewer.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
for for example, this last month, um, Facebook is doing like a Reels bonus. So TikTok, there's so many people uploading TikToks. TikTok doesn't really need to pay you, or the way that TikTok pays you isn't good. But now there's all these other platforms like Instagram Reels. They were doing a bonus program where they would pay creators to start uploading Reels. Uh, and then now, kind of a big shift is, okay, like there's so many people uploading Reels on Instagram now because that's the only way to get engagement, because the algorithm seems to reward Reels more than any other sort of post, whether it's a picture or a video uploaded to your feed. It's even the videos in your feed, it turns them into a Reel automatically now. There's not even an option to upload a video. It's just a Reel. But over the last 30 days, or the previous session of 30 days, we got 20 million views on our Facebook Reels. Obviously, I was motivated to post a lot of Reels because of they were doing a bonus program over there. But we got 20 million views in like 30 days. And my
Wow.
YouTube channel as a whole, at 600,000 subscribers, has only, I say only, but it's 100 million views. So I have 100 million views over the past, let's say 6 years of uh, automotive content and build videos and stuff. And in 30 days, I got 20 million views. But like you were saying, in the last, 6 years of me doing full-time automotive YouTube, I have 600K subscribers, whereas on that 20 million month views worth of views on Facebook, it only translated to about 14,000 new followers. So you can see the numbers are a little, like, it proves that, yes, that you're not getting that actual relationship. You're
Mhm.
just getting that hit, that quick view. Maybe they'll like it, maybe they'll share it, but they're not actually, following your page, and you're almost relying on the algorithm to serve them more of your content in the future,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And yeah, it's definitely an interesting, yeah, it's like, how do you retain, that viewer? How do you build that relationship to where they do start following your reels um, on it? Whereas, yeah, like YouTube is similar, but I feel like YouTube, even now, like, it doesn't show me the people that I follow. Like, I could subscribe to a channel and not watch 3 of the videos that it recommends to me, and it'll never show me that channel again. Like,
Hmm.
but the channels that I keep up with are the ones that I kind of am around, or that I follow. Like, I'm not even subscribed to them, but I feel like I've been subscribed to them for years because I watch all their videos. As soon as, the browse page on YouTube pops up and it shows me a new video from this person, I click on it, or, if I do continue click it, it'll show me their next video. But as soon as I fall off of that, even if I am subscribed, like, it just stops. So I feel like it's mostly the algorithm anyhow. So it's like the followers kind of aren't, it's not like it used to be on
Yeah.
YouTube. YouTube, it was, when you subscribe to a channel, that was the videos that you've seen. And it still is. You go to your subscription tab on YouTube, but that's not the first tab that you like is open. Like, you click on YouTube and it's automatically in the browse tab. And now there's all these titles and thumbnails and stuff that it's trying to recommend for you. And it doesn't care about your subscriptions. It wants to show you this new latest video from, whoever is doing this crazy thing. And yeah, that's just it seems like that's kind of, I don't know, like, how do you get people on that, to come back, to a short form
Yeah.
video?
It
Like, I
almost
don't know if we've just lost that, or if people are on just like a,
it almost be
it's that quick hit.
an interesting social experiment to take, say, one of your 30-minute videos and break it up into, however many 45 or whatever, say 30-second clips. So if there's a 30-minute, there'd be like whatever 60 or 70 of these 30-second clips. I would
I think it
assume
would.
your shorter stuff's going to do better, but then in the long run, like you're saying, I mean, yeah, everybody wants that initial gratification, that 15-20 second clip, wicked. But do you really, like we're talking about, do you really get viewers from that? I don't know. If I'm into the YouTube channel, and into that specific part of the job, whether it's woodworking, whatever, I'm probably going to watch the longer one if there's a bit more process. But that initial, gratification of watching a 20-second. But do you really do you retain the information from the short clips as much as you would from a 30-minute video where it's, that start stop all the time? I don't know, but I think that goes to show maybe the new generation has that shorter attention span, and that's what they're going for. I don't know. It's probably been different for you too as a content creator, and going through these builds of, say 4 or 5 years ago to now. Just, yeah, like it's crazy. And how do you stay on top of that? And you're probably constantly juggling how you create content, and that's got to be hard from the business standpoint too, to have that change.
Yeah. And I think with, talking about like the, converting like a long form video into like short form video, they're almost two, you film them and edit them completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because if you just took that 30-minute video, or even let's say it's a 10-minute video, and you broke it up into, a bunch of clips, the clip has to have something in it, like the beginning, the middle, of the end. It has to have the story. So you have to have that same story between, the 10-minute video, whereas like that's a really long story, where that's the process. Whereas almost in like the shorts video, or the 15-second, or the under minute video, like, you almost have to break down that process into its own individual processes. Like,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, like you were saying previously about like cleaning the bolts. Like in a 10-minute video, that would be like a time lapse.
Yeah.
But now that is a 15-second super satisfying clip, you know? But it's also kind of, you could almost use it for both platforms. You know, you could keep that time lapse video in the normal video because that's a part of the whole process of swapping this engine. You know, is okay, like we have this junkyard engine, it has dirty bolts, you know, and my car doesn't run. We're going to make it run. That's the point of that video. The point of the short video is I have dirty bolts and they need cleaned, and that's it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of content opportunity in those moments, you know, in that longer form video. So it's weird because they're like completely separate and you have to think of them in a different way, you know, like and it's just weird. Like I feel like I've kind of got an eye for short content recently. Like we were just doing a quick time lapse. We were getting ready to paint a car, and one of the guys that was working with me, he started blocking the side of the car, and as you can see, there's like these little dents, you know, like let's say like a door ding.
Yeah.
And it's a black car, and he's sanding the side of it with a block, and the paint is shiny. So as you sand across this dent, you now have this, you know, shiny dark spot, and then this dull side of the, you know, this dull around it. So you could obviously see that there's a dent there, you know, because it's like, okay, you blocked over it, and now you have this bowl. And so and as soon as he was doing that on some of the other dents, I was like, okay, cool. All right, come over here, right here, like, and I just like pulled out my phone, put it in vertical, and I was like, all right, ready, 3, 2, 1. I was like, I want you to sand this dent pretty quick, not too much, just enough to get the scratches to where you can see what's done. And then when you're done, wipe it with your hand. And it's a 15-second clip, and it got like 2 million views of just something that like was so simple, you know, and was like, I would have kind of skimmed across it in my video. Like it was just in a time lapse, essentially. It's like, hey, we're body working this car, we're going to paint it. That's the process. I've done it a bunch of times, but I was like, this is like prime Reels real estate, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like excited and kind of nervous because it's something new, but it's insane the potential of Reels. You know, there's channels that on YouTube or on like Facebook or Snapchat, or even, you know, Facebook or YouTube is now monetizing shorts. And there was this one guy, he had kind of a clickbaity style reel. And he said something, he's like, I'm leaving, YouTube doesn't want me on this platform. And it was girlfriend in a bikini. And I was just like, okay, that's weird. Had like 29 million views on it. Like, and then in that video, he said, go look at my long form video to like explain why. And I must have been one of the only ones to go to his long form video, because it had like, this channel has 3 million subscribers, and this long form video had like 20,000 views on it. Wow. And it was a 10-minute video of him talking about like why he was moving off of like YouTube because of, you know, their policies and something about bikinis. Cause he was like, but he was literally getting like 200 million views a month on his reels or on his YouTube shorts. And it just is insane, the fact that somebody could go insanely viral, you know, and get a 29 million view video, you know, on a short form piece of content. Just as easy as somebody gets 100 views on something, you know. I mean, it's just crazy how exponential that kind of area is right now.
And it's like the Wild West, because I've posted a few things like this is a perfect example, I think, because our Instagram page, we just started this podcast back in June, so we're almost at 500 followers. Yay, go us! But what I've noticed, I've put up some reels, and I did a couple, like a install series thing, a 2-part thing, where I installed a diesel heater in my little single car garage, and the one got 21,000 views. And I was like, holy crap, if half of those people hit follow, like but like we'd be well on our way. And then the next thing, part 2 to that, 7,000. And then the next video, I did spend a lot of time doing this. Like, I have this 51 International, and it has really nice blue and rusty patina, and I put a filter on it, and I did like Booker T and the MGs, that Green Onion song, that cruising song. I did the whole thing, 2,700, right? And then it's like, what's the difference? Like, what is, or like that, do you see that LS truck Rampy? It's like it's owned by Wayne Dick, and he's from here, but he did the Burnyard at SEMA this year. It's like that orange Corvair truck with an LS in it. We had a video of him. He's from our town. We did a video of a reel of him. He took us for a rip in his truck, 700. It's like, what is going on? I don't even understand. But I think what we're getting into here is having to balance the two, because if we're too heavy on the reels, then your 600,000 subscribers who come to you every single week or day, however, I forget how often you upload. You don't want to make them feel shortchanged, but you also, like, you're trying to make a living too. And as far as sponsors go, that's short. The short content stuff, that's a gold mine, because their brands, let's say you have a brand deal, their brand is being seen 20 million times, and you only have to make a 15-second video. So it's like, there's got to be a balance, I think.
Yeah, it's weird too, because like I'm kind of classifying like my YouTube channel, like I'm kind of leaving that long form, and I'm trying to develop a strategy of like, how do I upload a short to my YouTube channel that is relevant to my current long form videos? So how do I upload a short that makes somebody want to go watch the long form video? And that's why I haven't really found that yet. So that's why I don't really upload that many shorts on YouTube. Whereas I feel like on Instagram and Facebook, the people that are there aren't your subscribers really anyhow. And they're just kind of there for that hit of automotive satisfaction or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so I basically have two different strategies that I'm kind of trying to do. But one of the things that is the major difference is that on a long form video, let's say on YouTube, like 1,000 views equals, let's say, around $5.
Oh, okay.
On a video, whereas on shorts on YouTube, 1,000 views on shorts is 5 cents.
Oh, okay.
So it's a way different ratio, obviously, and this all depends. Like $5 is about an average. On YouTube. Like if there's finance channels that are, let's say they're $10 to $15 per 1,000 views. There's video gaming channels that are $1 to $3 per 1,000 views, just because of, it depends on the value of your audience in Google's eyes on how they pay you, is essentially what it is. But yeah, that's where it's tough, is like, I could go and upload you basically just have to add zeros, to where like I could upload a video that gets, 30,000 views on YouTube and, make something. But then in order to make that same amount, like I would have to have, what would it be? Would it be like a 300,000 view reel, or is that a 3 million view reel, to make that same amount of money?
And you got a family to feed, right? And you got a lot. There's a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's really interesting
So
how things are going.
Me being like, okay, I need 30,000 views, which I need more than 30,000 views. But like, okay, I need 30,000 views. Now I need 3 million.
Yeah.
On this type of thing. But it's like, okay, my 30,000 view video, I could upload one of those a week. On this short form content, I could upload 3 to 5 of those a day.
Yeah.
So there's, I'm kind of trying to navigate, this shift, and kind of get in on it early, because I know a lot of other people, they're just so busy, with their normal content, their normal everything. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, you like paying bills and trying to do all that other stuff, as well as trying to adapt to this new, you know, attention span of everybody.
But at the end
So
of the day, like that's horrible for our society. Hey, it's like no one's watching my videos if they're longer than a minute long. Great.
mhm.
What does that say about society at large?
Well, and I've listened to some Mr. Beast podcasts, and I think a lot of it is that, you know, people just don't want their time wasted. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
like
fair. That's
I'm
fair.
sure
Yeah, that's fair.
you get on, like, if I'm gonna upload a video, a 30, like, I go back to like the junkyard engine swap, like a 30-minute video of me swapping an engine in a car. If I could have made that video 8 minutes long and it got the same point across in a more fun, highly energetic, more satisfying, you know, way, like, am I just wasting my audience's time by uploading that 30-minute video,
That's
you
a
know,
good
when it
point,
could have
though.
been 8?
That's a really good point, right?
Mm.
Is it
And
it's forcing creators to be more creative, maybe.
exactly, yeah. And, you know, again, a lot of it just comes down to not wasting the audience's time because they have infinite options. If you waste their time on your video, they might not ever come back,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
If, you know, it's just like if somebody doesn't like the way you talk or the way you look or whatever, they're just like, oh, like I don't really, or they don't like your car, they don't like Mopars, you know, or Chevys. They're like, and they see that you're working on a Chevy, that they might not care about you anymore. They're like, oh no, the only thing I'm here for is Mopar content. And you bought a Chevy, or, you know, like that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, just really, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like certain, like almost the old school classic, like I feel like it's a different demographic that watch those videos. Um, you know, so I think that people that do work on older cars can get away with a longer form video because their viewer is a little bit older and is maybe in more of a niche,
Yeah.
so they could get more in detail, in depth, because, you know, maybe you're the only creator that's uploading Mopar content, old school Mopar content, whereas everybody else is, there's 15 people uploading 240SX drift videos, you know,
Yeah.
and you're the only, yeah, you know. So there's a lot, I don't know, there's a lot of strategies. I mean, I think about this stuff a lot, you know. I mean, I have to, it's how I make a living now. So uh,
Do you find this change takes away from like your projects, the building, the the getting your hands dirty and working on these project cars? Do you find that it's kind of almost consumes you a little bit on, how do I get into the right direction versus I just want to get on this vehicle and build, or your projects that you have kind of lined up?
oh yeah, I think that, you know, escalating the business to the point where I guess it kind of is right now. I'm in like no man's land right now, you know. I'm like, I'm not by myself, but I'm not super successful to where, like, you know, the money's flowing and you could have employees and you could have everything. It's like I need help, so I need employees for certain stuff, you know. But then the issue is that you're not like making enough to like have like a full-time employee. But then you're like, well, if I need a full-time, like if I had a full-time employee to do this, then it would free up my time to do this other stuff. So I guess recently, what, like, I used to do everything, you know,
Yeah.
build the engines, paint the engine bay, do the wiring, do the paint, do the body work, do the interior, film the videos, edit the videos, upload the videos. Literally like 110% was me. Like I'd wear 10 different hats a day. Whereas, you know, recently I've, you know, hired some people, or, you know, worked with friends, and a lot of that hands-on stuff has kind of taken a back seat because now, you know, instead of me just out there working on the car, I'm like, okay, well, now I have to figure out how the business is going to make money to where I could pay somebody to work on that car.
Yeah.
And it pulls, I feel like, a lot of my creativity out of it, you know. And a lot of those moments that, you know, like maybe during the video, like I'll set a time lapse up and let one of the guys just get to work on something, whereas, and I'll go in the office and I'm, you know, answering emails or doing phone calls or paying bills and, you know, figuring out tax stuff. And I mean, it's just crazy how, I guess it's, like I said, it's kind of that no man's land of doing stuff, because it's like I need help but I can't afford help, you know. and to
Yeah.
get to that point. So like I'm just kind of still almost doing everything, but in a different way, um,
It's
like I
like
feel like
it's
for the
almost like
videos,
it's almost like when you like where you have the dream where you dreamt to get to, you're it sounds like you're there, but it's also makes you not able to do what you wanted to do in the first place.
exactly. Yeah, it's like the thing I started the channel with the most was me working on cars, and now it's like I almost don't even work on cars anymore. I'm just like paying bills and like, you know, like figuring out the business side of things in order to be able to be like around the cars or with the cars and stuff. So, um, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what you said. It does like, pull you kind of out of it,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I'm kind of debating on recently. I had a friend that I was working with. He worked with me for the past 2 years, and he kind of split off and did his kind of went on to do his own thing. He was kind of always buying and selling stuff and kind of has a shop set up at his house. And, initially, like when he started working with me, his life was less complicated. So, his overhead at home wasn't as expensive, but as his life progressed and, he got married and had a kid and then, that type of stuff, now he needed to make more money, but he also didn't have as much time to dedicate as he initially did.
Yeah.
But like I scaled up the business in the aspect of like, okay, now I have to pay two people, from this. But like, so now the overhead is really expensive. It's like we have a big shop. We have, we have a 5,000 square foot shop. We have two post lifts. We have a paint booth. We have, a quarter acre of land. We have like this junkyard we have access to and do all this stuff. And then now he recently decided to do his own thing. So now like that's kind of all on my shoulders now. I'm like, you can't do that with one person.
Especially now when it's such a tough spot it seems like you're in right now. And I'm sorry to hear that because it's like you're doing this, you've expanded the business, and then now you're trying to the whole landscape that you have been used to earning a living on has completely changed and you're like, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah. And yeah, and that's why I'm in a tough position is because it's like, what do you do? Do I scale it back down? Do I go way back to basics? Because I'm pretty fortunate. I sold my house kind of at the peak of everything, during all the COVID crazy prices, and I actually got into another house that has a shop on it. So I have like a 1,600 square foot shop at my house, which was like we were doing all of our merchandise fulfillment and stuff for the giveaways there. So we had like, racks of t-shirts and,
Oh yeah,
we had
yeah,
a heat
yeah.
press there and we would make stuff and we had, you know, pretty much everything we did in-house. So recently I am working with another company where they print and fulfill. That was a big issue that we had was just like, we were sourcing everything locally. So we'd like a local screen printer. We'd be like, hey, we need these t-shirts, these hoodies, these whatever. But with the giveaway model, it's tough to anticipate that if you're going to sell, 30 of a shirt or 100 of a shirt. And so our orders weren't super big because we didn't want to have a bunch of stuff left over at the end. But then when the time would come to finally put in an order, like they'd be like 2 to 3 weeks out. And I'm like, I can't sell stuff, without having it like really in stock. But then I can't have customers waiting, 3, 4 weeks before they get their stuff. So uh ended up finding another company that basically does the same exact thing with other people that do giveaways and sweepstakes. And so they print in-house and they fulfill in-house. And so that took a huge weight off of my shoulders because not only was I, working at the separate shop during the day, doing that stuff, trying to do videos, trying to keep projects going along. Then at night when I would get home, it's like, okay, after dinner, we got to go outside and start shipping stuff too. Um, and handling customer emails. And it was just a lot. But now that shop is essentially kind of open. I have too many cars, but I
No
have some
one, no
cars
one
stored
does.
in
No
there.
one does.
And so yeah, we're trying to find that balance between like, do I, reduce my overhead like out here at this shop, which this shop is set up. Like if we had 3 to 4 people here, like we could do a lot of work, and get a lot of projects done. And and all that stuff. But it's like, am I missing out on, like at that point, like, what do I do if I have 4 employees? Like, unless I have like a business manager and I'm out there working on the cars, like I feel like I'm going to work on the cars less. So it's like, do I bring it back and pull everything back home and try to do everything myself again? As far as like the working on the cars and just kind of simplify it. Then I don't have to, I don't have this crazy overhead. So I don't have to have like a, employee type of thing in order to kind of like work and hopefully make money to like be able to pay for this stuff. It's like, if it's scaled down enough, then can I focus more? Will the videos be better? Like, I don't know, that's kind of what I'm in between right now, is like, do I scale up because I know the potential, and I know what it could be with a team of a lot of people. But then again, you're running into, how do you find them 4 or 5 people?
It's almost like
What if they,
do I go down to the back to grassroots of how we got started? Is that what we got to do here?
yeah, and that's what I'm kind of looking at. And I'm like, well, I have like 30 some cars. So,
Yeah.
it's a lot of cars to finish, but yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I guess is going on with me now. And definitely it's going to be a challenge either way, and I guess at this point it's just like choosing. It's like, what do I want? What do I want it to look like?
Yeah. Which is a pretty cool situation to be in, really. Like a big picture, it's a pretty cool situation to. It's like it's not a bad decision to have to make, But getting into like, so now you said you have these 30 cars you got to finish, and what would be, if you're getting, you have this vision for your business and for the channel, and you have this kind of dream that you want to achieve, but bringing it back to cars for a second, what would be like a dream build of yours that you haven't already done?
I feel is because I've had the last, let's say the last 3 years to really like almost kind of pick and choose, like anything that I want to do, as long as I can make enough videos about it, or, I could almost build anything, if I really wanted to. And I think that's kind of what, I don't know, if it was going to be a specific car, like obviously my Datsun 510, that's one of those builds where I'm like not ready for it yet, because I want it to be perfect. Like I want to really have the time to dedicate to it. And I feel like right now I'm kind of too busy running the business, and it's hard for me to take that much time away for not necessarily like a passion project, but like a lot of the builds and stuff that we do right now, like with the giveaways and stuff, like, we build the car and then we do a giveaway on it, so that in turn brings in money. So whereas like the Datsun, if I start working on it, really the only revenue that will be coming in is the YouTube revenue, which isn't technically enough to handle the overhead. So then I'm kind of like, I can't do that yet, So like, but when I was young, in one of my uncles in Arkansas, there's this car. It's a 41 wheelies coupe. It has a blown like 540 some cubic inch Hemi in it, and it's called the Frantic Frog. It's like this lime green, just insanely beautiful 41 wheelies coupe. It's all steel. The bottom of it is just like as clean as the top of it, like, chrome polished, everything. Like it's like they cut and buffed the bottom of it. The bottom of the car is the same color as the top. But I've always wanted to build like an old school like wheelies coupe, or I guess not necessarily old school style, but like I want to build a wheelies coupe with like a new style, like new technology, like something different, instead of just putting a 500 some cubic big block in it, do like a turbo 2JZ, and then like
and tick a lot of purists off, but it'd be wicked.
Yeah, and then instead of like the the old school like 15-inch wheels with the 30 some inch wide tire or whatever on the back, or I think they're like those crazy Mickey Thompsons that are insanely wide, like do like some TE37s or something crazy like that, and then make it like all-wheel drive with like a sequential transmission, and make it actually run and drive well, instead of just being able to like go in a straight line. I think something like that is definitely kind of one of those, more of a classic style build for me. But I think another type of thing is that I would like to do is more of like a full tube chassis, like almost like an F1 style car that is like has some sort of a body on it it's resembles that car, but it's not that car anymore. It's like if a car manufacturer had to put, their OEM body on an F1 car. Like I think something like that would be cool. So
That'd be
and I
rad.
think that would be, yeah, and that would be kind of a huge challenge. I don't know if you guys have seen like Ryan Turek's that the Stout, that Toyota truck that he built
Hmm.
at SEMA.
Um, Probably to see it off like by name. I can't remember it, but
Okay, yeah, but they did a pretty cool build series, but I guess I just liked the integration of all the technology. They took this stock 60s Toyota truck, completely 3D scanned it, pulled everything into, a CAD file, built a full tube chassis, sent it to a chassis builder. They kind of built it like a trophy truck. Um, everything, the cage was all built, everything was CAD designed. They built, again, with the 3D scan model, they built like a wide body. They took it to like this CNC like mold. They basically made a mold for the fiberglass body kit out of like a CNC mill, so, and it was all from the computer. So like they almost built the car on the computer, but then, obviously put the pieces together in real life based upon all the CAD stuff, but it was like they have a bender, with the, all the right stuff in it to where it laser notches on the tube of, okay, start this bend here, then you put it in the thing. You're like, okay, bend to 24 degrees. And so like, it's, it's interesting. It's a lot of technology that went into that whole, thing. Like they were designing the cage and the chassis around the fuel cell. They 3D scanned the fuel cell and they're like, okay, now we have to integrate this into our tube chassis. And I think
that's
that
hilarious.
level is pretty crazy,
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
obviously I don't think that's right now. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it was Donut Media or I think Ryan Turk, he actually did a pretty good build series on his actual personal YouTube channel. And I know, like, I'm familiar. I talk about him, because I'm used to like the, drifting and kind of the import stuff. I don't know if he's kind of in your guys's like world as far as people you keep up with, but it was a really really cool build. And the other, kind of car that would be kind of an inspiration would be like Ken Block's the Huna Pegasus,
Oh
that pink
yeah,
Porsche that
yeah.
they just did. So I'm in Colorado. I'm actually only about 45 minutes away from the Pikes Peak, the mountain where they do the hill climb and everything on. So
Yeah, yeah.
I actually seen that car. I seen it at SEMA and I seen it when it was here. I actually did some testing at the local track, our local track, which is like, not too far from my shop, which is pretty cool. But um,
That
yeah,
is cool.
it's crazy.
That's
But
wow. Yeah, we
what
went to I went to WyoTech in '05, and we went to the hill climb when I was down there, and
mhm.
it's wild to see all that stuff, and especially I love the builds where they take the technology, kind of like what you're talking about. They take the technology to the next level and they put it into, I maybe the word resto mod would apply, but the car, I don't know if the vehicles are old enough to call it a resto for the resto part of that, but
Mhm.
like it's newer technology that the car came with, but it just takes the car to a whole new level. Plus, it's wrapped in this beautiful, like whatever your favorite car might be, it's wrapped in this cool car that can just haul ass and actually turn in the corners, like you said with that car you were talking about earlier. It actually can
Mhm.
function instead of just going in a straight line.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would say another build that they did was the Unicorn. Like the all-wheel drive, twin turbo, uh, V8 sequential, makes 400 horsepower. Just insane car.
Yeah.
And literally the only thing that's stock on it is like the sheet metal. That's like they just completely had to cut up everything to get it to even fit on there. But it's just this insane insane car.
I think
So,
that car was
um,
groundbreaking too. I think it set the course for a lot of people. Maybe gave people permission to do something like that. I think
yeah, because it
also,
was executed so well.
oh yeah, and it just like I remember seeing that first was it that Gymkhana? I don't know what number that was when the unicorn, um, the the first one where he's hooked up to the chain there, and then he hits the button and he goes. Just like
Mhm.
as when I got so pumped when I watched that video. It just like I've never seen anything like this before.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like, so how do you, that almost sets the like kind of that sets the bar, you
Hmm.
know? So it's like, now what? Like, what do you do? What do you do now? Obviously, like they didn't build that in their garage. Like it wasn't like some guy, that just spent a year building that thing. That was a team of, highly specific, craftsmen, super
Yeah.
like experts in their own areas that all came together to put a car like that together. So, um,
Well, I
yeah,
don't know.
it's
I wouldn't. I'm not saying you're doing this, but don't sell yourself short either. You guys turn out some pretty cool stuff as well.
yeah. Thank you, appreciate that.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. That's why we wanted to get you on here. So, question for you. For someone who wants to kind of dive into this field, get started in building cars, whether it's on the side or as a career, what's some general advice you'd have for someone who just wants to break into the industry?
And I could slice that like 10 different ways because
That's why
uh,
it's such an open-ended question, but we love it open-ended because it gives our guests an opportunity to just go take it whatever way they want.
yeah, I would say the biggest thing is start, what is the reason? Why do you want the car? Because I feel like cars, you know, they're multi-purpose, obviously they're either forms of transportation. Do you want the car just because you want to get good mileage? Do because you have a 2 hour commute to work, and so you need to get something that gets 50 miles a gallon. Like, is it that? Is it because, like you want to have a group of friends, to like work on cars with, or do you want to go to the track, and build friendships or relationships, or just have like a lifestyle, because that's the other thing that's interesting is like, sometimes I compare cars to like drugs, like
Make Carcane.
if yeah, exactly. Like almost if you it they almost simplify your life in a certain aspect because then that is all you're worried about. Either way, whether it's
It's a
drugs
good
or cars.
point. Yeah.
It's like once you kind of go down that path of cars, your life, it as complicated as it gets, it's like it turns into like, how do I go faster? How do I, what car meet are we going to tonight? Or what road course event that I do tonight? Or in my terms, it's like my whole entire life is now consumed. Like if I was a drug addict, I would be the great one,
The
because like
best drug
if
addict
we're
ever. Yeah.
comparing, and because like that's it. So it's like, I guess, finding the purpose, and then find something that you would like. Obviously the style of car. If you're into like BMWs and Mercedes and or JDM cars, if you go out and you're trying to work on a car with your uncle and he's working on uh, an old school small block Chevy, like you're probably not even going to care about it. But
Yeah.
I would say finding something that you care about, do the research, find probably a local group of people, or get out into an area where you could see that car, where you could touch it, where you could talk to the people about a similar car. If you're into drifting, go to a drift event. If you like 240s, probably go to a drift event, and
Or
you'll
get
find
on a
one.
forum. No.
uh, yeah, I mean, forums, Facebook groups, watch YouTube videos. I think that's another cool thing about like kind of in the YouTube world. I guess here in the United States, Adam, he's hosted a couple like events. There's events like Grid Life now,
Yep.
to where you could go and you could go to a Grid Life event here in Colorado and meet me, shake my hand, look at my car, talk about stuff.
And learn
And I
that
would
way,
say
hey?
just exactly. And, again, you could go to a local drift event and find somebody with a 240 that has an RB25 in it. And you're like, oh, like I love RB25s. This thing sounds so cool. Like, how did you make it sound like that? What turbo do you got on it? And, they're going to pop through their hood, start talking about it, and you could just learn that. And I would say the biggest thing is just obviously just starting, is like
Yeah.
find either the car, you know, that you want, or like 240SX on Marketplace, but it's like literally a rolling shell. Like it's not even a rolling shell. Like you have to like forklift it onto a trailer. That's probably not a good car to buy. But if you're like, okay, you find a reasonable project, you find a 240 and that's what you've always wanted. Maybe it needs an engine swap. Well, you could buy an engine, unbolt that one and bolt in another one, and now you have a car.
Yeah.
But if you buy one that's completely, disassembled, it's going to be tough to get that back to a point to where you could actually enjoy it, which was probably the whole point of even wanting a 240 in the first place.
Yeah, no
So I'd
kidding.
say, setting a realistic kind of baby steps into it. Engine swaps, as complicated as they are, they're easy.
Hmm.
Um, you know, if you buy something that needs paint and body work, it's a lot more complicated. If you buy something that needs, crazy wiring stuff, or it's, you bought a 240 and it has some, imagine if you bought a 240 and it had like a modern BMW engine in it, and you're like, how am I going to wire that thing? Like
Yeah.
that's tough. Whereas you could buy an SR20, call up Wiring Specialties and they'll send you a harness and it'll plug in and you could turn the key and it works.
Yeah.
So there's the research part, I would say, is that. But yeah, that's what I said. I could keep going on that.
It's
So
all good. No, you can really tell you're passionate, and it's inspiring actually to hear that, to hear your advice to just start. I think though, from what just working in high schools and stuff, kids are big consumers of content, and I think sometimes getting back to what we were talking about, people's understanding about how long stuff actually takes, or just how big a job things are. Like kids will come by because they know I'm into cars and stuff, and they'll come by and start talking, and then they'll say, "Oh, I want to get this car, but I want to do like an LS swap to it." Like they'll drop all this popular nomenclature, right? All the popular language of the right now, and of all the stuff that they see online. I'm like, do you understand though, like how what that takes? Like you don't even have a toolbox, like. You want to say this, so do you see that
well,
a
and
lot, like when you're at a show to kids? But like you got to be careful though, because you want to inspire them too, right? You don't want to like bring them down. Do you come across that a lot?
yeah, I mean, I always remember, I always kind of refer to this. I go back to like I got a DM on Instagram. It was same, I would say like same exact scenario, but like somebody was like, "Oh, I want to put a V8 in my Toyota Camry." Like I want to put a NASCAR V8 in my Toyota Camry, and I'm like, have you like, and based upon this guy's profile, he was a kid. Like he never turned a wrench or did anything like that. And I think that it's kind of that baby steps type of thing, is you kind of have to ease yourself into it, or at least be, confident, super confident and stubborn, to be able to push through something like that. And your example of like a LS swap, like the cheapest part about that whole entire swap is the LS,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
everything that goes around it, it's like, oh, I could go to the junkyard and get a $300 LS. And then you're like, okay, well, now I got to buy this, $300 wiring harness, or this $600 wiring harness, and then this
yeah,
radiator and these adapters, and now a drive shaft. And people don't realize that, if you go buy a drive shaft from your local, um, you know, shop, that's going to be like, $300 to $600 for just a drive shaft, when your engine costs $300.
yeah. And then you
And
get
you're
it all
like,
ready to
what?
fire, and you start it up, and it knocks, and then you got to do that.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, now I have to. So, I think kind of baby stepping into a certain, realm, or at least have people around you that could support you in that. Like, let's say you want to LS swap, you know, your truck or your C10. Like, do you know anybody who has done that before? Maybe you could work with them, or maybe your uncle's done it, or maybe your neighbor or your friends or whatever. And you're like, okay, like I'll come and help you clean up your shop or whatever. If I'll come hang out while you work on your car. Like, is somebody else local working on their car that you could go and learn? And it's a similar car to what you want to build? Or I guess it's kind of like that, get your foot in the door. Like, how can you get in with a group of people, a group of friends that could help you along that way? Because
Yeah.
just doing, doing stuff in your garage by yourself kind of sucks,
No, of course. And it's like
Um,
surrounding yourself with people who have the same interests as you, right? So that you can all grow kind of together that way.
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Um, so taking that next step further, are there any specific skill sets you think that are important to develop when diving into this area?
I would say that a lot of it is just, I don't know, there's so much information online now that like you could almost figure out how to do anything. Like I said before, you could get on YouTube and find videos of how to break down bodywork. You could find videos of, how to, um, how to wire an LS, and the information is out there. And I would say that the biggest skill is just like kind of the determination to figure it out, is like just be willing to figure it out and continue with it. And also like, one of the guys what you guys mentioned is like, get the car off of the jack stands, is like the you have to have the discipline to say like, I'm going to go out there and work on that car, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to wait until I'm motivated to do it. Because if you will wait until you're motivated, sometimes you're going to be motivated, sometimes you're not, but if you
Yeah.
go out that in the garage every single night, you say, I'm going to go out in the garage from 8 p.m. until 10 p.m. after dinner or whatever. I'm going to work on my car for 2 hours, whatever it is, you know, versus saying, oh, when I'm motivated, I'll go out there, because then when you're motivated, you might go out there once a week.
Yeah.
But if you're disciplined, you'll go out there every night.
Yeah.
And I would say you have to have the skill to have the discipline to
Yeah. To build
to
the skill.
to build the skills. Yeah. And really it's just, research, trying it out, and I guess the unwillingness to not, finish it.
Yeah, because like
It's what-
motivation, I don't know. I think motivation or lack of motivation is just fleeting, like feelings, like being tired or being hungry, right? It's just if you're not motivated, well, you could not be motivated for 6 months, right? But as soon as you get
Exactly.
out there and you see the progress you've made, I mean, we kind of Huff and I have that with the show kind of too. Sometimes when we're like after a if we record, let's say on like a Friday after work, and then he'll come over and we'll both be like, "Oh, we're exhausted," but then we do it, and then at the end of it, we're like, "Oh, that was awesome!" Like you're charged up, you're excited, And I think that's the same for any sort of garage project.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
I think it's cool. So now going down a little more specific, if someone's starting out, what are the top 3 starting out tools that you think someone should have when getting like building a car or becoming like getting in the automotive industry somehow?
I would say, obviously that I just go back to the internet. The internet is probably
Yeah,
the
yeah.
number one
Internet
tool.
access. All right. Yeah.
Internet access. And because that's like your how-to book. I mean, anything you want to do. I mean, basic hand tools is obviously like a necessity, and some of that stuff. I mean, you don't have to have a big crazy, fully decked out Snap-on box like somebody at a dealership would be. But I would almost like say start your projects with kind of the tools that you either have available to you or ones that you could, or like barrier of entry, like most people have a let's say like a drill like at their house,
Yeah.
so kind of starting out, I would almost, I guess this is how I started out, is like how I learned a lot of stuff was I wanted to make money. So I turned to buying and selling cars, and that turned into buying cheap cars that had issues. But then you got to look at the cars, like what is a realistic thing that I could do? What is a skill that I know I have to where I could fix this car? And what is something that is potentially easy to learn? So it's like, okay, here's a car that it has a minor front end wreck, so it's like, okay, I need to replace the headlight, the fender, the bumper. Okay, now I need to know how to paint, that stuff, or I need to, figure out how I'm going to pull this radiator support out. Or it could be something as simple as this car is listed with terrible pictures, on it, but I have I have an iPhone and a vacuum and a drill
Yeah.
that I could
Vacuum.
polish
Yeah.
the headlights with, so it's like I'm gonna go buy this car that was, obviously like had terrible pictures. It was dirty. It just needs cleaned up. The headlights are terrible. So like the only tool you really need is a vacuum and a drill with a headlight polishing kit. And now you could potentially make $1,000 just by relisting this car with better pictures and actually cleaned, with polished headlights. And like, so that kind of gives you that motivation. You're like, okay, what is the reason? Why am I doing this? But like, in that process, when you're working on that car, you're like, okay, well, the radio doesn't work, or, it's a Honda and we lost the code. So now I'm going to go to the, Walmart, and I'm going to buy a $30 freaking radio to throw in here. So now I'm going to learn how to wire really quick, and kind of stepping up your skill set as you go. And then at the end of it, you're like, okay, now I just made $1,000 profit on this thing. Now I could buy some more tools, instead of buying all the tools in the world and not even knowing how to use them. It's like you kind of, baby step yourself into it. And I don't know. I mean, I always go back to the buying and selling cars is because you could kind of practice, you could practice all your skills on a car that you could potentially get paid to, it's like, kind of paying yourself to go through college, it's like you're learning as you go.
That's a really cool, I've never thought of it that way. Like I've had a couple projects recently. I had a Ranger. Actually, I was watching your videos about your Ranger swap there, and I was really close to doing that, the diesel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that and then I ended up selling it, and I probably made about $1,500 on that swap. I bought it for really cheap. I thought it was a head gasket, but it ended up being it was a 4-liter in one of the water jacket. On the intake manifold gasket, around one of the water jackets, it just started leaking, and it puked out all the coolant. And the guy thought it was a head gasket, and I was like, okay, well, if it's a head gasket, I'm only going to pay this. And then, thank God, it ended up not being a head gasket, but it was just that little gasket on that water jacket. So I ended up being able to flip that, and made some money for my international project. And it's just like, but I never thought of it as, hey, like I learned how to do this and I'm getting paid for it. Like it's kind of, you're just, like you said, you're just funding your own education. That's a really cool way of looking at that.
Yeah. And then, if let's say it was a head gasket and then you did it and then you realized it wasn't too bad, now you would be you'd be praying to find a Ranger that needed a head gasket because,
yeah.
You knew how to do it now. Or if you've seen something else that needed a head gasket, even though you never did it before, you took a chance on this, you learned how to do it. Hopefully everything worked out. You made some money. Now, if something else pops up that needs a head gasket, you're like, I'll do that. No problem.
Yeah.
And then again, and that's why, I mean, it just kind of worked like that for me naturally because it was out of necessity. I had to make money to support my car addiction, of building, my Datsun or the Mustang or my dirt bikes or any of that stuff. So it was like, that's just how it worked, and if I painted a bumper on a Civic and it was the first time I painted it, and it wasn't the best paint job in the world, well, it didn't really matter a whole lot because it wasn't like it was my dream car. It was a $2,000 Honda Civic that now is all one color, so not only did I learn how to do that, somebody else got a better car because it's, now it's painted, it's all one color. Most people just rattle can stuff. I painted it legit. I learned how to do it. I learned my mistakes, but it's one of those things where I'm not worried about it and I'm going to completely redo the car because it has to be the first car I ever built, had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Show car SEMA thing. It was like, cool. Like it just works, that whole process, that whole
Yeah. It's like what David Freiberger says, don't get it perfect, just get it running.
Yeah.
As far as projects go. Oh man.
Well, then in that process too, you learn how to get it perfect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, but it's still like you're not going to learn how to make it perfect if you don't try to make it perfect. There's a t-shirt for
exactly.
you. Oh man, Trevor, I could go on forever. This has been we got to have you come back for a second part. I think that'd be awesome.
I'm down. This is I've been, honestly, this is the first podcast I've technically been on.
Really?
So I appreciate the opportunity with you guys. I think it's really cool. I think what you guys are doing, and kind of the whole model, of how to hopefully motivate people, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do in my videos. Is how do I motivate people? What are the issues that I run into that I could, hopefully walk somebody through on a build like this? And so I think it's really cool. I've thought about doing a podcast previously, but I'm just kind of at that time stage. I don't have a whole lot of time anyhow, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. We could go for hours. As you can tell, I like chatting about this stuff.
Oh, it's
and,
awesome. You can tell
appreciate
you're
you guys,
passionate. You can really tell you're passionate about it. And it really comes also like what you said about trying to help people. It really comes through in your videos too. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate appreciate all the people who've been following me all the years, and you guys for reaching out. I think this has been really cool. So
Yeah, it's awesome. So as we kind of wrap up the episode here, where can people find you if they've been living under a rock for a few years? Where can they find you? And is there anything that you have coming up that you want to promote?
I would say, yeah, pretty much everything is just Motion Auto TV. I mean, I'm on, obviously YouTube is the main thing. So, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Snapchat. I really don't do much with TikTok. It's kind of an interesting, platform, but the upcoming stuff, we're actually getting ready to build a twin engine Honda Civic. This has been one of those crazy ideas that have been in my head for a while. So we're going to put two K-series engines, one in the front and one in the back. We're going to start it off with, just the engine in the back. So I guess if there was something that I was looking to promote, I would appreciate it. I guess if your listeners or viewers would go check out the channel in the coming weeks and see what we're building, or I guess see the process. We'll go back to the process of how we're going to build that thing and make two engines work in the Civic. So yeah.
That's incredible. I'm as a previous. I'm a Honda. Like that was my first. Well, my first car was a Trans Am. My second car was a '93 Civic. It was a sedan. It wasn't a hatch, 2-door. And that was talk about like going back to the head gasket thing. My head gasket blew. I didn't know how to fix it. It was a D series. It would have been the easiest head gasket to fix of all time, but I didn't know that, and I sold it for really cheap. So.
So that was my bread and butter, was like D series Hondas, small front end wrecks, head gaskets, knocking engines, whatever. That was like, I would just sit there and scour Craigslist, because that was the first car I ever did head gasket on, was that. And it was like, I knew that I could buy and sell one of those, and
it's probably
turn
mine.
it around really quick, because I did it before.
It was probably mine.
I mean, probably like honestly, it could have been if you were selling a Honda Civic between 2007 and 2012 in Colorado.
Yeah,
that needed a head gasket, and some guy showed up with an F-250 and a tow truck. It might have been me.
There we go. Well, right on. This has been awesome, and we'll put the links to all your social media and stuff in the show notes of this episode. So for all of us listening, for everyone listening, Trevor, thanks again for your time today. We really appreciate you having you on and sharing your passion for everything. You got so many irons in the fire, and it's really inspiring. So hopefully this conversation inspired people to get out and build something cool.
Yeah, I hope so too. And everybody needs to start making reels and posting them on Facebook.
Yeah, there we go. And thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Hoff for being here with us as well. And for everyone, thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.